But how did we not say this? We just passed 2 million downloads. How did we not bring this up before? Hey, everybody, thanks. We hit 2 million downloads this week. Thank you.
Hi, folks. This is Louis Hertham, the original Peter Abernathy. Hell is empty and all the devils are here on the Shadow TV Westworld podcast with Roger, Gene, and Big D.
Welcome back to Shat on TV Westworld, the unofficial podcast companion piece to the hit HBO series Westworld. I'm one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Ashley Schlafly.
Hi, y'all.
And this is our final Telegraph edition for Season 3 of Westworld. We call it the Mean Mail episode. We do it once a season where we gather up the meanest tweets, the meanest reviews, the meanest emails that we got and share them with you. Plus a few leftover emails that we got in about Season 3 and, of course, voicemail to round it out. You have now entered essentially the post-credit scene for Shat on TV Westworld. This will be our final episode until Season 4. Big D, Ash, I am very excited to take a well-deserved break. What do you guys plan to do now that Westworld is over?
I'm ready to enjoy the pandemic because I feel like everybody out there is on like Twitter, like, I have so much time on my hands. I've cleaned my house 4 times. I've done this and that, and I'm bored out of my mind. I can't wait to be bored. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I have to say I'm kind of looking forward to that too. And I'm also looking forward to watching TV without being yelled at about my opinions regarding it. I think that's going to be really nice to enjoy it again, as well as just watching television without having to take notes. I think that'll be fun for a little while to enjoy a show or not enjoy a show, but not have to write about it afterwards.
This eats up at least 75% between this and the movies, 75 to 80% of my free time every hour during the weeks. I'm not complaining. I do it because I love it. But now I'm ready for a little bit of a break. I'm ready to get put in cold storage.
Yeah, my list right now, my exciting shit that I'm going to do that I haven't had time to do during Westworld includes like cancel CenturyLink, get motorcycle fixed, not even fix it myself, have time to actually take it to the shop and get it fixed. Clean refrigerator. Guys, I had chicken thighs leak in the bottom drawer. I haven't had time to clean it up. And then, of course, it goes right back to Shat stuff. Set up squad goals for Twitch, set up Shat on TV Battle Royale for Twitch, and start the Shat on TV newsletter. So I guess no rest for the wicked.
Well, I think that's actually something that's on my to-do list too once this is gone, is figuring out how to get as good as Derek English at Mortal Kombat, because he's pretty badass not playing often. So that's going to be on my top list too, is to continue perfecting my Mortal Kombat skills.
I still have to pause and read the instructions, but I really want Big D to get on there to play Tor.
Is that the dude with the midget on his back, the little child?
It's a little girl.
Oh, I couldn't see. I was watching it on Twitch. It looked like an infant. It looked like a small child or a dwarf.
Oh Lord!
No, I meant literally because it looked like a small person, not a small person, just a scale. You also have somebody in there shooting venom and like shooting tentacles. So it wasn't like a real small person in the politically correct sense of the word.
It's in the fantasy sense.
Yes.
A fantasy dwarf.
Yeah, fantasy dwarf.
All Gene knows how to do is to throw her. So he just constantly throws the kid.
It works.
And it works like a motherfucker. I got to be real honest. I kept dying.
Okay, so tonight's Telegraph is going to be a little bit different. We're going to start off with the mean stuff first, because I know it's what everyone's been dying to hear. Then we'll move on to a couple emails we got about Dolores, some complaints about Season 3, and a few other topics. And then we'll finish it off with some voicemail. What I love about this episode is we had so many people we haven't heard from all season, but we heard from in past seasons and different shows, writing in and calling in for one final farewell. So thanks everyone who was involved. And Big D, hit that telegraph. Our first email comes from Nick Covarrubias, who says, "Hey guys and gal, I just hopped off the happy hour with you guys and wanted to send an email while it's still fresh in my mind. I'm sure you've been getting it a lot lately, but man, how lucky are we, the listeners, to have you guys and some semblance of normalcy right now. I've been with you guys for about 4 years, I think. Westworld, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Watchmen. and I don't know why, but I'm just starting Shat the Movies, so I feel sort of lucky that I have a ton of material to hold me over during lockdown. I've also got 2 sisters-in-law, 1 wife, and a cousin hooked on you guys, so I'm trying to keep spreading the gospel of Shat. We're all in San Francisco and super fucking weird, like a lot of places, but being able to at least have a routine and now able to interact on Twitch is a huge distraction. I thought maybe I'd be a bit old, 40, for using Twitch and didn't want to seem too fanboyish, but it's been really fun and a nice addition to your brand, I think, and nice to add some context to you guys. I also wanted to shout out that you guys kept referencing the End of the World pod this season, which made me super happy as I've been a Stuff You Should Know fan for almost 10 years. So now my 2 favorite pods are crossing paths, hopefully not in a weird Ghostbusters way. I'm slowly working up the courage to actually contribute to the pod via email or voicemail, but I'm not there yet. I'm still a little intimidated because the ones you guys read are legit. Anyway, thanks for all the work you guys do, and I'll try to keep contributing the boosts on Twitch as long as our restaurant doesn't go to shit and I go broke out on the street. Just kidding. Sort of. Have a great weekend. Can't wait for the Westies. Best, Nick Covarrubias, a.k.a. Nick Cobbs.
So, Nick, thank you very much. It is fantastic to hear, that we have created this sense of normalcy, even for 30 minutes to an hour. And even though I know I'm looking forward to a break, I bet you after the first week or two, I'm going to be like, I wish there was something we could cover. And that's when I start texting Ashley and Jean and try to find some series. But thank you very much. It's also created a sense of normalcy in our lives as well.
Well, and I have to say, Nick, this was a legit email. So you definitely belong amongst all the ones that we read, and we appreciate it. And I have to say, I'm a little jealous of you because you're talking about how you're just now starting the Shat catalog with Shat the Movies. And I kind of wish I had that to start right now as well. I feel that way about a lot of things. I have a friend who just started watching 6 Feet Under a couple of weeks ago, and she's binging that right now. And I wish I had something like that to listen to. So we hope you enjoy it. And thanks for writing in.
So Nick has applied the local anesthetic. We're a little bit numb now, and it's time to begin surgery. So we'll start up with mean mail directed toward Ashley.
Lovely.
And this one comes from P. And P says, I'm out. I can't take the nasally, pedantic droning of the new host. It was fun until you fucked it up.
Y'all, okay, so I don't care what people say about me. I mean, this kind of thing doesn't bother me, but I will tell you the comments about me being nasally or about me having a weird accent, it's made me incredibly self-conscious about my voice this season. Am I nasally?
Ashley, I do not think it is actually you. The microphone that you use is much more sensitive than Gene and ours. We've used these since the beginning. So I think it's just the microphone that is enhancing the little subtleties in your voice.
But I think that would imply that the tone comes out nasal on the pod, which I don't think so. I think Ash has a sort of almost stereotypical Southern sound to her. I say that's what a Southern woman sounds like.
I don't know, maybe we're all nasally, but if it is the mic, I ordered a new mic today, the one that you all recommended. So just in time for this to be over. So hopefully in the future, maybe it won't come out that way. But thanks for the feedback, P.
Next, we have one about Big D, and this one came in on YouTube. It says, Big D has the worst voice on the podcast. He has the annoying sing-song quality that Ash recognized in her own voice, but much worse than that. His voice also drips with a smugness and certitude designed to deter sheepish people from questioning his statements. Ash's sing-song, on the other hand, ends with a self-questioning rise in pitch that invites others to comment, which is a useful quality when emergency action isn't needed.
Aww. Deter sheepish people?
This is Gene. They got it wrong, Big D.
It's got to be me.
No, it has to be me. It's because it's the sing-song quality. I think that's me. I think it's my cadence. I think it's got to be me.
But I would never describe your voice as dripping with a smugness and certitude. I think that's definitely Gene, right? Although I don't think you're smug. But I think you have a certitude to your voice. I think you have a similar thing that I do, which is sometimes when we talk, we come across as like saying, this is what we believe and this is it.
I've been criticized at work, at my day job, for not putting I think in front of statements when they're not facts. And I'm like, no shit. I wouldn't be writing it to you if I didn't think it. Why would I need to include that? I don't need to say, I think we fucked this up. I can just say, we fucked this up. The implication is, I think that, therefore I write that.
Right. I got 2 messages this season suggesting that to me, that, I believe was the one that both of them, suggested was, well, maybe if you say I believe, it won't come across as that you're so sure of something. So I don't think that you're smug at all, but I do think that you have a certitude to your voice. And I find that comforting in a podcaster. And I don't think either you or Big D drip with any smugness. And I definitely don't think that this person's talking about Big D here. I just can't buy it.
Although I will keep in mind, Ash, if we are in an emergency situation, I'll tell you to shut up because your sing-song quality might cause us to delay action in an emergency, a podcast emergency of some sort.
Right. Call 911.
All right. Another shot at Big D says, can someone please tell Big D that pronunciation has nothing to do with dyslexia? I have no idea why he continues to just make stuff up, not understanding that people with the same affliction might be listening.
Okay, jackass. Dyslexia and the threshold of confusion. When dyslexic people make mistakes in reading or spelling, it becomes an experience that disorientates us, okay, which results in a distorted sense of perception. So when I do have a problem of I'm not sure of what the pronunciation is, the way that my brain works is I remember experiences of saying it one way, saying it the other way, and I cannot recall which one is correct. So you should look it up. The threshold of confusion does exist, and it does exist in people with dyslexia, with attention deficit disorder. So I'm not the only one. And we received emails from 2 people who said, thank you, I do the exact same thing.
I just love the idea of a threshold of confusion. That's one of my favorite things. I love that.
It's my favorite New Order song. Moving back to Ash, we have a clever one that uses Westworld vernacular. It says, please have Ashley freeze all talking functions for the rest of the season.
I'm sorry. I didn't. You're going to freeze all my talking functions now because the season's over. So I guess you're welcome.
You guys out there listening to the podcast experience this as audio. For us doing the editing, it also appears in a video form where we're actually seeing how much talking a person is doing as we look at the waves for the entire audio signature for the entire podcast. What's amazing about this podcast this season is when we look at them, there's an uncanny balance among all 3 hosts. And I love that. I love that Ash, Big D, and I do roughly the same amount of talking. If you discount the hello, welcome everybody, and the goodbye, and just talking about the topics, I wouldn't have Ash speak any less, nor Big D. I love the amount that she's talking, and sorry to disappoint you. Next up, we have a mean tweet about time wasted listening. And the tweet reads, they ask the tough questions, but can't see the answers in front of their faces. I'm not sure how I caught so many things throughout the season that they missed. I wish I had enough time to explain everything, but I already wasted enough time listening to this podcast.
I was slightly confused when this came. Well, thank you very much, by the way, for giving us a retweet. So that was nice that they shared us, and hopefully exposed us to some potential new listeners. But I would have been curious to hear what we missed. I think we're guilty of nitpicking and finding the details. But if there was something obvious, I would love to hear it.
I think that what's funny about this is I think that we really do the opposite of this. We really pick things over more than not see the things in front of us. Although we did get a lot of feedback about the comment I made about Arnold's wife. And so maybe that's what she's talking about, that she has dementia. But I don't know. Other than that, I think that we're guilty of the opposite of this.
The next 2, I'm going to pair together because both of them just took creative liberties with your name, Ashley. So I hope you'll allow me the privilege. The first one is Schlafly Crapley. No thanks. The new recruit was a bad choice. We didn't join other podcasts for a reason. And apparently it was to be used as you cycle on people that you already dedicated a good portion of write-ins to. Wow, that's one hell of a sentence. An ex-avid supporter. And the other one says, not feeling Ashley Crapley. Can we cut the cord already? Other than that, love the podcast.
I mean, I think they've improved my last name, so I do appreciate that. I think it's better than what it is currently. But I will say, the Schlafly Crapley one, I had sent you guys this. This person keeps updating their review. They are now on their third updating what we're doing on the show. So I guess you're still listening. So thank you so much for that. We appreciate you sticking around and supporting us by keeping on writing those reviews. So thanks a lot.
But have you noticed the name of the person who left the review? King Baka? King B? What do you think? King B? Is it a coincidence?
The King Bee would never be so as involved as to write a review about this podcast. That is too much work.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't imagine him being inspired enough to hate me that much to go on and write about it.
Much like Roger, I don't think he actually listens to this podcast. Ash, did the score get any better with those, or was it always 1 star?
No, it was just always 1 star. We've gotten 6 1-star reviews that have left reviews this season, and this person, it just keeps updating. So no, they're sticking with the 1, but hey, at least they're still sticking around.
Now, from a 1-star review to a 4-star review, we have one that says, Big D is the man. Big D is the only reason I keep listening. The other hosts are too cool for the room.
Well, thank you. I don't know. It might be hard because I know you two. But I don't know how anyone can think we take ourselves too seriously. If you just listen to the Westies, you should know that we're all clowns, that none of us think we're better than anyone else. You know, I think we goof around and have a good time with it. I don't know why some people misconstrue that as that we think we're having a laugh at the other's expense or that we're better than people. I don't get that.
So I've been told many times in my life that I'm much, much better when I'm drunk or failing at something. It makes me more relatable. It humanizes me, I guess. And so I'll take that as a compliment.
I also feel like this review encapsulates why we make less money on Twitch when Big D's not with us.
Oh my
because I think
God.
this review probably speaks for 75% of the listening audience. So.
I have the unfortunate duty of setting up the show parameters, setting the rules, reminding people to subscribe and to cheer on Twitch. Ashley comes in with the heavy research. So she's going to inherently sound more, intellectual, more involved. And then Big D can riff on all that. He's kind of the heart of the podcast. He's the jam that brings it all together, right? He's the delicious cherry on top. That's just the nature of the show. Ashley's really fucking funny. If you don't know that, it's because she's telling you about philosophy. I don't think I'm that fucking funny, but I'm not that bad a person. I just have to do the unfortunate parts of the show.
I don't know. I think you're really funny. And I think Big D's really funny. I think we just all have very different senses of humor. And I think that's what it is. And I think people just relate to Big D's humor more because he's your everyman. I mean, that's Big D. He is the heart.
I am Larry the Cable Guy. I am Paul Blart Mall Cop.
No, you're Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I mean, real talk. If I had to, and no offense, actually, if I had to spend a road trip with somebody else in the car, I would rather go with Big D. I would rather actually be Big D with another Big D. I would rather do that than hang out with myself. So I'm not going to fault you guys. He's the most likable person on the podcast, and he deserves 4 stars.
Thank you.
I do take offense to the too cool thing. I don't think I'm cool at all. So I don't think that's right. But yes, I would go on a road trip with Big D any day over anybody else, including even my own family. Probably Big D would be a lot more enjoyable than them. So
my wife would disagree with both of you.
The next one comes from David from SoCal, and it's a lengthy one. He took the time to really write one out. He said, I was the one who wrote in at the beginning of the season for Westworld because I didn't appreciate the way Ashley flowed with the rest of the hosts. You guys all laughed at my email. You guys had a winning formula in my eyes. It was basically bar talk, stuff my friends and I would talk about concerning our favorite shows and movies. I unsubscribed the Westworld podcast weeks ago, because I couldn't stand Ashley and how she messed up the great chemistry after religiously following you guys for American Gods, Taboo, True Detective, and Shat on Movies. I just played the first minutes of Shat on Movies, and now you guys have her there too? That's amazing, lol. I can't believe you think the majority of the audience you've built over the years would want her smug analysis of 80s and 90s movies. I was shocked. Anyway, the moment I realized she was on, I unsubscribed Shat on Movies. I'm going to miss Big D and the other hosts. The other podcasts out there aren't as fun as you guys were, but they don't have an annoying host. I know you guys will probably blast me on the podcast. I still wish you luck with everything. Stay safe and take care. And that's David from SoCal.
David, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you come back. I enjoy a different, set of people. I think Ashley is different from Carrie. Carrie is different from King B. Sometimes the mixes that we set up for the movies have different outcomes. It's like when you're making a cocktail. I might like Jack Daniels and some SoCo, but I don't want to put them together, and it can go bad quickly. But to think that Ashley is going to screw up the chemistry, I completely disagree. I think she brings something to us that's different, and I hope that the vast majority of listeners enjoy it, because I enjoy it.
I also think it's interesting that he unsubscribed in the first minute. I wasn't even on until like minute 9 in that podcast. So don't think he gave me a chance. I mean, this was another person who had written in previously and who asked if I was going to basically talk about Gramsci on Shat the Movies. And I think that they don't understand, like, Westworld is a different beast than Shat the Movies. I mean, we come on here because Westworld is or at least it has been a different show where we talk about things that are, more philosophical in nature. I mean, hello, free will. Free will isn't free was the tagline of the fucking season, right? I mean, but, Shat the Movies, and I'm not bringing out Marx and Kierkegaard to apply it to Tremors. I mean, I guess we could, but that wouldn't be any fun.
On the topic of philosophy, we had another one from apparently a very highly educated woman. She said, Shat team, to preface, I am a female from a higher academic background. It's not that I don't get the new direction the podcast has taken. It's that I don't have fun listening to it. Seasons 1 and 2 were wonderful. Adding Ashley has made this podcast significantly worse. It was cool at first to have a live version of her insights, but the podcast has devolved into self-indulgent philosophy hour. It does not help that Ashley, probably unintentionally, laughs smugly at almost every pause. This is also making Gene less entertaining and grossly smug for the first time, in my opinion.
Well, I'm glad that there's another woman in higher ed listening to us. I am. I think that's great. There need to be more of us out there. So I hope that you're doing well. Gene, I apologize for making you smug. I do laugh, but a lot of that is just like because I find a lot of what we're talking about funny. I don't mean for it to be smug, and I certainly don't mean for it to come across as smug. And we haven't talked about philosophy in a really long time. I mean, I think we did a good job this season of listening to listeners, and the show, this email goes on to talk about how we were responding to this show basically that used to be philosophical and isn't anymore. And I think that we changed when the show changed. So the philosophy left because the philosophy left the show.
I think laughter is something that's seen as well as heard. And Ashley has 2 distinct laughs. And when I'm editing, I've become very, very familiar with them. And one is kind of I call it like the turkey laugh.
Oh, God.
And that one's like, it's in the background. It's a little one. I don't think that one's smug. But the one I love is the Ashley Schlafly cackle. It's when she really laughs. And it's like, it's evil. It's like a ha, ha, ha. And those are my favorite ones to see. I don't think either of them is smug, though. And they're some of my favorite laughs. That and Big D's like insane uncle laugh. They're fantastic.
But Big D, do you feel like I made Gene more smug?
All of this seems like it's hate on Ashley time.
Because it is.
No, see, but most of these came within 2 weeks of the episode. So I think certain episodes, you guys, broke out more of the philosophy that was going on, and it was more academic.
Right. This is all from mid-April, which happened to come after a deeply philosophical episode.
Yes,
so we
exactly.
apologize for bringing it up. Also, during the Telegraph that same week, everybody was writing in about philosophy and also, I believe, quantum physics. Mm-hmm. So it got a little heavy. This next one focuses on a topic that came up several times throughout the season, and it's about Serac. And it says, every time Serac is mentioned, I'm left wondering who started this awkward pronunciation. Do you have a hairball? Cough it up.
I fucking hate this name now. Like, it is like my least favorite name because of the bullshit that we have had to deal with about it. Guys, we gave it up, and it was not just me. It's like everybody, I feel like I'm being blamed for the pronunciation. And French, I'm sorry, guys. A lot of French, those hard R's do kind of sound like hairballs, but it's a beautiful language.
I don't think I'm not free to make a comment on any pronunciation. I normally butcher everything. I take heat for it. So I don't know if somewhere along the lines I started thinking, maybe that's the correct way we should say it. I don't know. I wish I had an excuse.
And as a testament to the humility of the podcast, when it was pointed out, we went back, we watched the episodes, we were like, oh, everyone's saying Sirach, and we started doing it too. So sorry, we will never correct Rehoboam because it's impossible to change now. It's Rehobo. Like, that's just what it is.
Well, and this at least was a 2-star review.
Yeah, thank you for the 2nd star. And finally, we have an email that caused Ash to write to me and say, what in the actual fuck? And I instantly recognized it as some of the best trolling we've seen in our 3 seasons of Shat on TV Westworld. And it comes from Calman in Minnesota, who says, Dear Gene Lyons, I decided to watch all of Westworld Season 3 before listening to your podcast because I didn't want to spoil anything for myself, but I still love your podcast. That's why this might seem a little late and obviously won't be read on the show. But I had one critique. I believe it was in episode 84 when you personally mentioned a desire to get into arguments with people and physically fight them with your karate. It's all karate, by the way. The Asians are laughing at you. This is going to sound odd, but I see the Shat crew as my imaginary friends. I don't have friends in real life, which is by design. And before you start feeling sorry for me, let me provide some context. I had friends because I realized spending too much time alone can drive you to insanity. Somehow, I managed to marry a girl who enjoyed me as much as I enjoy her, and I realized I no longer had to hang out with these assholes to maintain my sanity. Even better, I discovered your podcast along with others and have developed these one-sided imaginary friendships. Now you have jeopardized this unwilling and unknown relationship by sounding like a total white bro dude. I know you're Persian, but I only hear your voice and I realize you're doing the twitcher, but I have no desire to take our imaginary friendship to the visual level. So when you say you actively want to argue and eventually beat up people, you sound like a very unlikable white bro dude, and I hate it. Violence is the lowest common denominator. I understand karate can be a fun hobby, but don't think of yourself as some lone warrior who's the protagonist of his own story. Life is not a movie, and we are all just people. If we were to fight, I would simply grab whatever blunt object I could use as a weapon and give you one hard hit to the nuts. Fight over. No one goes to jail. No one goes to the hospital. You might say it's dirty and dishonorable. I disagree because it's all dirty and dishonorable. So quit talking about wanting to beat people up. Again, you sound like a white bro dude, and no one enjoys that. If it continues, I may have to end our imaginary one-sided friendship. P.S. Other than that, the pod's been great. Except that bitch Ashley constantly inserting her libtard feminazi agenda. You think you're so smart because you have a degree from a university? I demand a higher bar, H-I-R-E, when I'm listening to a retrospective podcast about a television show about future robots who fucking kill. When will the male persecution end? And that comes from Calman from Minnesota.
This is how you troll. This is how you troll.
So for people who have listened to other podcasts we've done on Shat on TV, Calman wrote in some of the deepest, most credible, most interesting emails about Watchmen and really blew me away with the insight and sensitivity. This is an incredible 180, Calman, and I'll fight you karate any day of the week.
I will say, though, it says a lot about the emails we get randomly throughout the season that we've gotten emails that sound just like this, that we're not trolling, which is why I commented, what in the actual fuck is this? Because we've gotten so many. And then when you told me, like, yeah, I mean, okay, sure, it's very funny when it's read in that lens, but I guess I'm a little shell-shocked. I got a little email PTSD here with some of the bullshit that we've read this season. So, but it's funny.
Thanks, Calman, for listening all this time. The dust has settled, guys. We are clear of the storm. And now it's time for just normal Westworld email. And the first one that comes in is about Dolores. It's from Shelton Holland in Richmond, Virginia, who says, let's keep in mind Dolores has a personality that at the root is trusting and compassionate. Of course, she chose her oldest friend to hide the key inside and familiar faces to assist her. Bernard's stance on humans also lies somewhere in the middle, so Dolores knew he didn't have vested interest in ruining her plan. Being somewhat naive in her design, she saw Caleb choose correctly once and was smitten, a callback to falling in love with William. So although Dolores is a host, she's not perfect. She was modeled after humankind and therefore will have missteps. And that comes from Shelton Holland. So Shelton, I really love this email that actually came in a week ago, but we didn't have the ability to fit it into the last Telegraph. So I wanted to get it in this week. And what I liked about it is we tend to treat some of our characters as perfect because they are either the hero or the host. Nowhere in the Westworld gospel was it ever written that Dolores in seasons 1, 2, or 3 was a perfect character or perfectly programmed or perfectly suited to take over the world or lead a revolution. She is flawed. You're absolutely right. Now, Big D has characterized it as being the rancher's daughter. He said that several times over the season. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that characterization, but I do agree that she has a personality and a build. She is a fully fleshed out person, and therefore every person as a result of a personality has flaws.
Yeah, I think my one complaint was the rest of her plan was meticulous. It was well thought out. We were surprised at how she had thought of every possible scenario. Just tell Bernard, hey, Bernard, listen, you got the key in your head. Don't get caught. Go hide. Just go do it. And I would have been okay.
Thanks, Shelton, for your email. Next up, we have a complaint from Susan Hayden in Georgia. She says, hi there. I sure have enjoyed your in-depth analysis of Westworld episodes and just finished listening to your take on the season 3 finale. Bottom line, Westworld jumped the shark in season 2 and did not redeem itself in season 3. It is sad but true. I had been hoping for a return to the magic of season 1. I don't know why uninspired showrunners resort to ending a TV show season with some Lollapalooza disaster, but season 1 ending with Ford's death and the revolution of the hosts and of the park, that was disappointing to say the least. What was the goddamn rush to take us away from the park? I didn't get it then, and nothing happened in season 2 or 3 to grab my fascination the way season 1 did. Every episode in season 1, I went back to view 2 or 3 times. Deciphering the timeline, the turns, and unexpected reveals captured me. Season 2, blah. The whole idea of just transferring the host to a virtual reality left me cold. Season 3, you can call them plot holes. I call them disappointing incoherence. The story, as they have developed it, cannot ever take us back to the parks, which were the most interesting aspect of Westworld, the park. And that comes from Susan Hayden in Morrow, Georgia.
So I have to say, I actually really agree with you here, Susan. The one thing I really missed this season was the parks. I was excited about exploring the world outside of them, but I really miss the home base that we had there. I miss just dealing with Delos, to be very honest. I thought Insight wasn't as interesting as of a corporation as Delos was, and I just didn't feel like the Delos storyline was over yet, I guess. And I agree, maybe some of the heart was there in the park of the show, and I don't know, maybe they jumping the shark. I don't know if they jumped the shark, but I definitely think perhaps they moved too quickly. With 5 seasons, maybe they could have left the park a little bit later. I don't know.
I'm deeply appreciative of Westworld as a show. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be alive in a time when I can watch it. I'm grateful for every hour of it that I've seen. I agree with you, Ash, and with Susan that we left Westworld, the park, too soon. They established it was a huge place. There were literally hundreds of characters. We could have discovered one small piece of the puzzle every episode for years, and I would have been satisfied with that. I remember in the season 1 finale, I'm like, we're really leaving the park? We're getting out of here. Like that's the case. This is the revolution. I felt it came on way too soon. I was excited this season to get into the actual world because they did such a great job of depicting it. And I agree, there's no way we go to the park, back to the park at this point. It wouldn't make sense. But I do wish that Westworld had taken its time, really explored Westworld, the park, and revealed this mystery bit by bit. Thanks, Susan, for your email. Next up, we have one from repeat writer John Lish. He says, without getting into any fan fiction, when I look at these elements that were introduced by the show itself, it's a puzzle as to why they weren't developed further in the script process. 1. Sirach's love for his brother. 2. Rehoboam's need for simplicity by removing outliers. 3. How the Delos data would have enhanced Rehoboam and or helped Sirach. 4. How Dolores and Caleb could operate in the shadows. When I think of Engarad and Jean-Mi's relationship, it is one filled with tragedy and pain. I understand the impulse to want to control their lives so completely. To build Rehoboam is a rational response. The pain of losing his brother to mental illness must be a driver for Sirach, and the placing of Jean-Mi on ice gives hope for a rescue and a reunion. And yet, Enguerrand Sirach is turned into a sock puppet in the finale. This relates to Rehoboam removing and storing outliers. This has to serve two purposes. The first is that Rehoboam isn't all-seeing, so he needs to simplify the story that people experience. The second purpose is that you would only need to store people if you wanted to bring them back later when you could integrate them into society. Both of these conflict with the world we're presented with. If the show had established Rehoboam's limitations, it would have made Sirach's desperation for the Delos data meaningful. The opportunity to rescue his brother and many others to integrate them into society would have been a powerful motivation. And Rehoboam's limitations would have allowed for Dolores and Caleb to operate in the shadows rather than imagining an all-seeing but scatty AI who seemed to have a secret death wish. It feels far better that there isn't an understanding of the small places and moments where sentient beings interact. Yours, building castles out of sand, John Lish. P.S. I was looking at your merchandise thinking I'd like a couple mugs, and there's no Ashley Schlafly merch as of yet. If there was an Ash's post-structuralist SAS mug, then my wallet would be out.
I love the idea for that mug. I actually had commented to Jean in this card. I was like, can we please have this? I will pay for it. I will buy this one mug that gets sold. But thank you so much, John Lish, for your emails all season. I mean, you have just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And I want to say just one thing to your point here about Sirach. I think that really is a huge let down, that they built this really interesting dynamic between the two of them very quickly at the beginning of the episode genre. So we kind of got to see how they created Solomon and why they created him and how that turned into Rehoboam. And I just wish we had just learned more, even just about Jean-Mi. I mean, I think he was a really interesting character. And I think it was a big letdown the way that Sirach kind of went out as this mustache twisting villain at the end that was just this weak guy. It just didn't fall right with the way they had built it all season.
I mean, think about the time we spent with Ford's backstory in season 1. I mean, it consumed probably the good parts of 2 or 3 episodes. When you build that type of background understanding, you start to sympathize, you start to see where the character's coming from. At the end, you need it for when Ford ultimately decides to turn Dolores free. Because that's such an abrupt 180. You know, without those episodes, we would have been the same way. Like, what the fuck just happened? And I just wish 2 more episodes, finish out a 10-episode season. You could have filled in these little gaps. And I think this could have been just one of the best seasons.
Next, we have a wonderfully titled email from Chaotic Neutral in the UK. My frustrations with other people's frustrations. It says, hi all, I just want to preface this email by saying I liked season 3 of Westworld. Season 3 does indeed have a lot of plot holes and storyline issues and character changes without any real explanation. I totally agree with everyone's frustrations on most of that. However, there are times when you guys and other people's emails mention some frustrations with the show that just aren't frustrations, or everyone's just looking too deep into it. Case in point is the quote, "You're not my son" line from Caleb's mom that some said led nowhere. For flip's sake, she had dementia. Where do you want that story to go? You're looking too hard if you're thinking Caleb's a host from that line. There are so many examples of little things just like that so many seem to have issues with, where I feel they're just nitpicking. And maybe it's a testament to how brilliant the show was in season 1, where every detail led somewhere. But come on, not everything needs to lead to something. That's just ridiculous, especially in a season that was pretty explicit from the first episode that it wasn't going to be a mystery like we had seen the season before. And that comes from Chaotic Neutral in the UK.
This is another writer who's done great this season, just consistently with writing in really good emails. And we've got a couple of emails from Chaotic Neutral over since the last episode aired. I'll say this, Jean, you, I think, pointed out correctly that Joanna Robinson had some fantastic coverage this season, the work that she did. And another article that I read recently that was on par with that is Forbes did a breakdown of why season 3 was such a huge letdown. And it was a fantastic breakdown. And part of what they talk about in there, a pretty significant part, is about what Chaotic Neutral is talking about here, which is that Westworld was the puzzle game show. That's what it cut its teeth on. That's what made it different. That's what made it exciting. And even them saying this is going to be a straightforward season was a letdown before they even had a chance to let us down, because that was not what the show was. It wasn't a straightforward show. And let's all be honest here, guys, like there is a way to make it more straightforward and not completely straightforward. There was a way to make it more mystery like season 1 and not so topsy-turvy like season 2 that some people just didn't get it. There is a middle ground there, and they kind of swung the pendulum, in my opinion, too far the other way and made it a little bit too straightforward. But I think that's where some of that frustration comes from that you are talking about here, Chaotic Neutral.
And with regards to the dementia thing with Caleb's mom, I'd like to point out that he's not her son. They re-scrambled his brain. They completely changed him. And so I think that's what she's saying. You're not my son. It was a clue. It was a clue to tell us they did something to this person's brain. So he's going to see his mom. She recognizes that the kid that went away to war, the kid that I raised is not this kid. And so there is a significance to that line. It's not just a throwaway. But I agree, Chaotic Neutral. I think that people did nitpick a bit this season, and it comes from the excellence that we expected after season 1. Thanks for writing in. Next up, we have one from Dakota in Tampa, who says, my theory goes that William is still in a simulation, and Stubbs and Bernard are also in that simulation, but from a different standpoint. You could say it started when William got pricked by Dolores, or when they took his blood and put it in the system and the system glitched. So let's start with Stubbs and Bernard. There are a lot of things that are off about them. First, why are they driving in some 1960s muscle car when everyone else is being driven in futuristic boxes with wheels? Second, when we see William is in the simulated reality, there's General Craddock and all the different versions of himself. And then we see Lawrence, who was William's sidekick for a time in the previous seasons. Lawrence seems a bit weird because now he's in the SFPD, just so he can tell Bernard to go see her, who he thought was Dolores, but ended up being his ex-wife. Third, the time when William is drinking the $20,000 scotch and the guy he's talking to isn't noticing the blood on his clothing. Last, when he goes to Dubai, everything is just peachy, whereas in San Francisco and Los Angeles, it was a mess, like Fight Club. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I think it's a simulation which ends in the future where William does the fidelity test with his daughter, and that comes from Dakota A. Claybaugh.
I think you can explain Dubai fairly simply, that different cultures and different countries, Dubai, the country, has a habit of really just locking down and clamping down on any kind of protest. I think there people would have been like, wow, insight, that's unfair. That's unfair. And then the first couple people disappear and the rest of the people are like, oh, that's okay. You can just use my data however you want.
I mean, I hope you're right. I hope there was a point to all of it, but I think that a lot of people are holding on to that because they want it to be, not necessarily that it will be. And if it is the case that it all is a simulation or there's some big twist, I wish they would have given that to us at the end of this season rather than waiting for another season, because I think they're going to turn a lot of people off if that's the case.
And finally, we have one actually to round out the season, and it comes from Mary O. She says, congratulations on the Westies, chat people. It was a very fun podcast. I think Dick Ebert missed his calling as a rap star. I overlooked this when I was reading the nominations for voting, but hearing you say it during the podcast, Dolores' stunning black to gold entrance to the party was in London, not Neo LA. I know it's a nit, but I just thought I'd point it out. Very small in the scheme of things. You really outdid yourselves this year. Thanks for giving us a great 9 weeks plus of Westworld analysis and discussion. Y'all, I'm not Southern, but I'm learning not to say you guys all the time, are a must listen for my TV and movie entertainment. I hope you can find more television during this pandemic to be able to talk about. Thanks again, Mary O.
Thank you very much, Mary. We've probably done 200 podcasts. This is the only one that I was nervous to listen to it, because a lot of it I couldn't remember. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? And Gene would tease with little snippets as he was editing. And I was like, I don't know if I want to listen to this one.
And Mary, you're absolutely correct. It was London. Then they took the little airship to LA because Liam got called over and Dolores needed to see some friends. So good eye on that one. That's it for the email, guys. Let's move on to the voicemail. And we have 4 very special ones in honor of this final telegraph. Our first voicemail comes from Nancy from California.
Hi, Shat team. This is Nancy Farugi 204 from California, and I'm calling about Westworld, the whole season, and especially your podcasts. Just want to quickly say that I love listening to your podcast, seeing you on the Shappy Hour. I especially love the addition of Ashley, Big D's pronunciation of Sirach and Bohobolim, and Roger's Twitch Sunday after the show reactions chat. That was great. And I also really love the chat taglines like, "Hi y'all, good evening," and "Jeans, stay the fuck at home." Your efforts have made the 2020 pandemic stay at home a little more tolerable, and I thank you so much for doing your podcast. Bye.
Thanks so much to you, 204, for listening. So Nancy's been joining us on Twitch quite a bit, and she's actually one of my favorite people who pops up. So when we're doing the Shappy Hour, we have people who come in and always want to talk about different things, whether it's to poke fun at us or talk about the episodes. And Nancy's just always so supportive and so kind. That shows in this voicemail too. So I really appreciate you writing in, and I'm glad that we were able to hear from you and hear your voice before the end of the season. Next up, we have a voicemail from Chris from Colorado.
Hey, Shat Crew, calling in about Westworld Season 3 finale. First off, I've been listening since Season 1, and honestly, without all of your series deep dives, theories, and listener write-ins, I never would have been able to get through the seasons, so I really do appreciate all the work that you do. I'm calling in about 2 things. First, Lawrence could not have been a Dolores copy, because she did say she couldn't trust herself without intel or tech. Therefore, I don't believe we found out who was in Berlin. Second, and Gene touched on this, but I really feel we have to look at Westworld from a bigger 3-act story, where Seasons 1 and 2 were Act 1, Seasons 3 and 4 were Act 2, and Seasons 5 will be the finale, Act 3. Thanks for all you do, and maybe a category suggestion for Shat the Movie? Best Ernest Movie? Thanks again, Chris in Colorado.
No, there is no best Ernest movie. So that, please, if somebody wants to make Roger Roper's year, do, what was it? Ernest Saves Christmas? He keeps plugging away for that thing every holiday.
Well, I think that what's interesting here is you're talking about viewing Westworld in acts. And I do agree with what Gene has said and what other listeners have said, that we have to view the entire thing as a whole rather than in parts. But I guess you just have to have pieces of, like, what I'm worried about is that we're not going to be able to get the whole story because of people not wanting to see the end if we have another season like this one. And I got into a really interesting conversation on YouTube where somebody was like, well, what's going to happen if season 4 just blows everybody's mind? Like, it's the most fantastic show we've ever seen. And my response was, that would be really great, but I hope enough people watch it. So I think that's kind of where Westworld is finding itself. And I hope that in the end that we're super impressed. I think that would be fantastic.
Thanks, Chris, for your voicemail. Next up, we have one from The Siege.
Hey, Shat Crew. This is for Westworld. I'm The Siege. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love yours. One of the interesting patterns I want to work through in a more long-form way, though, is the tendency of Westworld watchers of any season to miss a million things the first time through, become frustrated that they don't know what's happening on the screen, and then have an uphill battle trying to appreciate the show when they find out there were layers and layers and layers to find, and some of the things that they were confused and then started to naysay about have payoffs, explanations, in-world reasonings, and that sometimes getting your 3 friends together to talk about it will reveal that all of you had things that the other one had a perspective on that helps you all get closer to what the showmakers had a writing room to figure out that they wanted to be the whole show. Thanks. I was just thinking about that type of stuff. Have a good day.
One thing that I haven't heard anybody discuss in all of the gripings about Westworld or the end of Game of Thrones was the acquisition of HBO by AT&T. We talked about it when it first happened, and AT&T came in and they removed HBO's chairman and CEO, and they said they want to be more like Netflix, which was more content. We don't want it to be the premiere that people come in once a week. We want people to go to HBO, multiple times a week. There is a legitimate chance that the changes in Game of Thrones and Westworld could have something to do with things going on at HBO and behind the scenes, that we are expecting these layers to be there, but there's been a change in the model for the way that HBO is creating these flagship shows.
And I think that'd be really sad. And I'm not just saying that because we do podcasts on weekly TV shows, but in fact, a lot of people during this pandemic have been commenting on how short the fan life is for any particular show when they're, bulk released via streaming services, right? To the point where Disney is now like, shit, what else can we shovel out there? Let's put Hamilton out there. But really, I mean, think about shows that were sensations just during the pandemic that have faded from memory entirely. Who's talking about Tiger King anymore? Nobody, right? That was 8 episodes, something like that? Nobody's talking about it. There are shows that have come and gone in the time that Westworld was on, and nobody's talking about it anymore because they were a weekend watch. People talked about them for a week, and then they were gone from our memories forever. And so it is unfortunate that if you start to release kind of mid-level content, it's just going to become noise, and that's not very good. I do hope that at some point we get another show that is up to the level of Westworld season 1 or up to the level of Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 5 or 6, depending on your opinion.
I mean, Netflix has some flashes in the pan, right? There have been some great Netflix shows. I mean, Orange is the New Black before the last couple seasons, and the OA. I mean, you could go on and list. So they have flashes in the pan, but if you go on and you look, I mean, that new show Hollywood is a bucket dumpster fire full of shit. Like, it is horrible, and that's one of their top 10 shows right now. So they're very much like this weird mix between a premium channel and network TV, and I don't want HBO to become Netflix. They serve two very different purposes, at least for somebody who's a watcher like I am.
And as another point on the Siege's voicemail, I do want to point out that that's what makes the Telegraph great. That's what makes the podcast great. That's what makes interacting with all of you on Shappy Hour and Twitter great, is that the audience, and we've always said this, helps us figure out the puzzle. We do it together. And we're so deeply grateful to everybody for listening and writing in and sharing their ideas, calling in and sharing their ideas, and really helping us get a greater understanding, because we are fans of these shows. And it is amazing when someone writes in and puts a new spin on the show and helps me appreciate it more. So we're deeply grateful. And finally, we have an email from an old friend who has been with us at least for 2 seasons, definitely through Game of Thrones, and always brings a smile to our faces. This one comes from Matt.
Arrivederci, Fecal Film Fest. It's your old buddy, Matthew Ilden, but my friends call me Matt. Congrats on another successful podcast covering a dumpster fire. I was flat out bamboozled when D&D didn't show up in the credits. HBO teases you in with all this Sarabella premieres, only to dissolve into a soccer mom shit show. This season took a fire hose and 6 consecutive rolls of Charmin Ultra to get off my ass. I will now address each of you from most inferior to most superior. Ashley Schnasty. I'm recording this on Mother's Day, so happy Mom Day, assuming those are your children. I'll see on Tweetster. Maybe someday them and my nephew's son could have a play date. I think that'd be swell as hell. In a Panthers, you owe me a sticker, you hard-working, handsome Persian Gothic bitch. Emperor Hornet, I'd like to commission a cock ring, something that could drive a sister wild. Albino Andre, I truly appreciate the way you say Sir Rock. And finally, Rod the Gopher. What a catastrophe to get fired from your job and the Shappy Hour all in 1 week's time. I truly hope you are doing well and the hormone therapy is working well for you. But before I go, I sent in $20 on Spend Buddy for my mom's Social Security check for a Water World commission. If anyone else out there wants to chip in, feel free. I love me some Kevin Costner, such a great hairline. My Social Security number is 345-219090. Adios, amigos. I'll be off to protest this shutdown. If too many people go on unemployment, there won't be as much for me. Bye-bye.
I think the next shirt should definitely be Persian Goth Bitch, because that is one of my favorite things ever.
I just like that Matt included the King Bee in all of this and just asked him to make a cock ring for him. So that's pretty fantastic. And Matt, you're absolutely right. I do owe you a sticker. Matt was one of our founding followers on Twitch, and I fucked up and forgot to send you your sticker. So it's coming your way.
You know, people always say, "Hey, we want to see you. Go, do some video content." I want to see what Matt looks like. I need to know.
I know what he looks like, and he looks and he looks exactly the way you'd imagine.
Wow. Okay, you got to share that with me. But Matt, thank you very much for the voice message, and thank you everybody who has stayed with us through this season. Ashley, I want to thank you for all of the work you've done. People have no idea. We talk about the quantity of the work that it takes to read through emails, the writing of copy, recording and editing is probably some of the smallest of it. I mean, it consumes a majority of our week. We could not have done this, and we would not have done it without you. So I want you to know you made this season possible, and I will be forever indebted to you because you infused both Gene and I with tons of energy. You kept us going. You motivated us. So I want to thank you personally for everything you did for us.
That's so nice. This was like a dream come true, guys. I've been wanting to pod with you guys for a long time, and this has been really, really fun. And to all the people out there, especially my YouTube people, thank you so much for taking the time this season to really have conversations with us. And you've helped change my mind on things and change my perspective on things regarding the show. And you guys are just really awesome people. And to all the people on Shappy Hour, please keep joining us. I mean, this has been really great. I know that we're all going to get aspects of our lives back, but I'm really sad to see it go. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you guys are two of my friends now. And I'm sad we're not all going to hang out all the time anymore. And because it's been really nice.
Yeah, and for everyone, we enjoy the show. We enjoy doing the podcast. But what makes it the most rewarding is the relationships that we build. And it's sad, like Ashley's saying, she feels like this is the end of something. It doesn't have to be. Ashley, she's not going anywhere. If I have my way, she'll do tons of movies with us. We'll come up with other TV shows to do. I like to fill my life with people who enhance me, that I have a good time with. And I enjoy your company very much. So don't plan on going anywhere. If you've listened to us for Westworld, try the movies, come to the Twitch channel. And what's great on Twitch is it's real-time interactions. So if we're talking about a topic, it's not a one-way conversation. You can talk to us in real time. We can bring up whatever topic you want, whether we're doing Tiger King or some other content. But please don't let this be the end. Because that's the saddest thing. It's like you feel like we're going away to college and we're waving goodbye to all of our high school friends out the window.
Also, if you guys have been on the website, have written into us before, expect a newsletter to be coming out within the month. And that's going to be our way of announcing to you all the newest stuff that's coming out, whether it's TV, movies, Twitch, and also some of the best stuff that we've created in the last month. So be sure to stay subscribed to that. If you don't want to get it, that's cool. Just mark it as unsubscribe. Please don't mark it as spam, but we'll put that together for you just as a way to check in. And we promise not to spam you. It'll be once a month tops that you'll be getting that notification. Also, again, on Twitch, if you're not already following us or subscribing, go to shadontv.com/Twitch. again, if you're on Amazon Prime, it's totally free to have a Twitch Prime account. It's a way that you can sustain support of the podcast without spending any money. It's really, really great. Also, again, if you're not following us already on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, do so. We are ramping up Instagram quite a bit. We've been pretty active on Twitter this whole time, but Instagram is really something that we're plugging into and having some fun with. You can keep up with our lives there. We'll continue posting there. Also, on Facebook, you can search for Shout on TV Podcast. The website, as always, is shoutontv.com. You can get started now during your binge watching on past seasons of shows that we've done.
Wait, how did we not say this? We just passed 2 million downloads.
Yeah.
How did we not bring this up before? Hey, everybody, thanks. We hit 2 million downloads this week. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we were celebrating. We were like, oh, we did 10,000. And now we look at what's become of us.
Yeah, we just sneeze at 2 million now. If I had a penny for every download, grumble, grumble. Anyway, the website is shoutontv.com. You can still email us at host@shoutontv.com or call 914-719-CHAT. It won't get on the Telegraph, but we'll listen and read wherever where fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pandora, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by iTunes, please leave a review. It's still important. It helps the podcast grow, and it'll get us positioned well for the next season. So when season 4 of Westworld rolls around, we want to be top of that list. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, Ashley Schlafly, Roger Roper, and the King Bee, I'm Gene Lyons. And that is the end of the season. We want to thank you so much for listening, so much for contributing. We appreciate and love every single one of you, even the ones writing in the mean mail. Thanks so much. And as always, stay the fuck at home.